Welcome, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Carrie Turgeon, and I'm a business owner, and I'm also the mayor of Jefferson City. But today, I am speaking in my role as chair of the Board of Governors for my alma mater, Missouri State University. Since this university was founded as a teacher preparatory school in 1905, affordability has been woven into the fabric of Missouri State. On behalf of the board, I can tell you that our commitment to affordability is as strong or stronger than it has ever been. Missouri State's board and administration is guided by a long-range plan. One of the strategic priorities is that the university must continue to offer a high-quality education at a competitive price. Each year, the board reviews an action plan, and without exception, each year's plan includes new action items to enhance the university's efficiency, educational quality, and value for students. We are particularly excited about several new affordability initiatives that we will roll out this year. The board took action on 2 of these items in a meeting yesterday. To give you details on these new initiatives and to talk more about the university's track record for affordability, I'll now turn the podium over to President Smart. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Turgeon. I want to begin by saying a few words about our student body, and I know that we have some of our student leadership in the room today. Our students are mostly Missourians. Nearly 85% of our students are from our state, and those students are literally from all over. We have students from every county enrolled this year. Many of our students come from Southwest Missouri, but more than 40% of our student body comes from other parts of the state. That includes over 4,800 students from Greater St. Louis and more than 2,000 students from the Kansas City area. We have truly realized our goal as Missouri's comprehensive statewide university. Many of our students are focused on putting their education to work by graduating quickly and starting their careers. 2 of our biggest colleges directly connect the education students receive with their chosen careers. The first is the College of Business, which has over 5,500 majors and is the largest public business school in the state and the 34th largest in our country. The second college is the College of Health and Human Services with over 4,600 majors. Consistent with our history as a state normal school, the College of Education also produces more teachers each year than any other university in Missouri. And about 75% of our students stay in Missouri after they graduate and are employed throughout the state in every industry. For example, over 500 of our graduates currently work at Cerner Corporation in Kansas City. One of the things I always ask students when I interact with them is why they chose Missouri State University. I get a lot of different answers to that question, but without exception, the number 1 response I receive is it was more affordable than the other major state universities. Missouri State's work to keep costs low while universities throughout the country raise tuition has been very successful. College attendance numbers have declined throughout our state and the country. Meanwhile, Missouri State University has set new enrollment records year after year. This fall, we set our 6th enrollment record in a row and went over 26,000 students for our system. This is due in part to our efforts to maintain affordability. Undergraduate in-state tuition at fees at Missouri State University this year is $7,306 for 30 hours of credit. This is more than $600 less than full Pell and Access Missouri, the 2 primary need-based programs that students utilize. The result is that Missouri State enrolls more Pell-eligible and Access Missouri eligible students than any other 4-year university in Missouri. And nearly 3/4 of freshmen in fall 2017 who were Access Missouri recipients received enough gift aid from federal, state, and institutional sources to cover their tuition. The university also leads public universities in the state in the number of transfer students. These two facts are a testament to the value students receive here. As you can see on this chart, that 10 years ago, tuition and fees at Missouri State were only $300 below the national average. But over the last 10 years, tuition has increased nationally by over 50%, while costs at Missouri State have tracked closely to inflation. Tuition and fees at Missouri State University are now more than $2,600 less than the national average. On this next chart, you can also see that we have maintained affordability among the other public universities in the state. Tuition and fees at Missouri State University is between $2,000 and $3,000 less than at the University of Missouri, even before accounting for college-level program and course-specific fees. Moreover, our room and board expenses are also well below average among universities in Missouri. We've been recognized for this. Last year, St. Louis graduates and the St. Louis Regional Chamber recognized Missouri State University as one of 3 Missouri public universities that demonstrated outstanding leadership in graduating low-income students, first-generation students, and students of color with less debt. Our work on affordability has primarily involved holding down increases on tuition and fees. But there's more to affordability than the amount we charge per credit hour. Today we're announcing 5 new initiatives to make Missouri State University even more affordable. First, beginning immediately, we are decreasing the total number of hours required to graduate from 125 to 120 hours. This has the potential to save in-state undergraduate students more than $1,000 over the course of their studies. Along with strong advising, this action will help students graduate on time in 4 years or less. I want to thank Faculty Senate Chair, Dr. Cindy McGregor, and Dr. Thomas Dickey, who chaired the task force working on this issue, for making this recommendation. I also want to thank our SGA leadership for advocating for this change through the Student Government Association. Second, Chartwell's is our food service provider for our dining halls, and they do a tremendous job. Yesterday, our board approved a contract extension for Chartwell's, and as part of that extension, our number one priority was to renegotiate the food service contract to reduce the allowable increase in student meal charges year over year. And so it's reduced from 4% a year to whatever inflation is, this year 2.1%. Third, we saw on the chart I put up earlier, Missouri State is a leader in low-cost student housing. Nevertheless, the university will freeze housing rates for 3 residence halls next year as we work to keep housing affordable. Rates on Hammonds, Hutchins, and Scholars will not increase. Students will pay exactly the same amount to live there in the fall of 18 as they are paying today. This rate freeze will affect more than 1,300 students living in residence halls, which is about 1/3 of our total occupancy. Fourth, incoming freshmen and returning students will enjoy lower cost for some textbooks and larger sections of lower division courses. The MSU bookstore is partnering with faculty teaching larger sections to offer streamlined ed versions of texts at far lower costs. Dr. Chris Craig in the provost office has led our effort in this cost-saving measure. And finally, we're also expanding several of our scholarship programs. The Missouri State Promise Scholarship benefits low-income students who have not qualified for other academic scholarships or aid. Beginning this fall, we will increase the first-year value of that scholarship by $500 and expand selection criteria to nearly double the number of entering freshmen who are offered this award. We are also expanding the criteria for the Provost and Dean Scholarship so more students will qualify. These changes are expected to result in about 750 more admitted freshmen being offered scholarships and another 450 receiving increases in their scholarship offers. We'll be notifying these students about any changes in the next several weeks. These things are so important that Zora Mulligan, the Commissioner of Higher Education, has commended us for this work. She was planning to be here today but had a death in her family, and so instead asked me to read this commendation. The Missouri Department of Higher Education would like to commend Missouri State University on the 5 affordability initiatives you are rolling out today. Affordability is one of 5 goals included in the Missouri Blueprint for Higher Education, which was developed to help our state meet its higher education needs. Our goal is for Missouri to rank among the 10 most affordable states in which to obtain a post-secondary degree or certificate by 2025. As the second largest university in the state, Missouri State is already a leader in affordability. With your new affordability initiatives, you are taking it to the next level by addressing the expenses that most acutely affect students: tuition, room, and board, and books. By reducing the number of hours to graduate, you increase the likelihood of students completing their degrees in 4 years. Thank you for being proactive in this endeavor and in supporting the state of Missouri in its effort to make higher education more accessible to its citizens. Finally, I wanted to take a few minutes before we close to talk about affordability in the context of the state budget. Over the last year, Missouri State University system has experienced 3 reductions in state funding. They're on the board. In FY17, we had a withholding of more than $6.5 million. In the current budget year that we are in, we had a budget reduction of $6.5 million and a withholding of an additional $2.7 million. This is not a new trend, and we anticipate further reductions in the FY19 budget, which is expected to be released next week. In fiscal 2018, which is where we are now, Missouri State will receive $4 million less in state funding than we received 17 years ago. Think about that for a minute. Missouri State will receive $4 million less in state funding than we received 17 years ago. This is before factoring in inflation. Over that same period of time, as you saw earlier, our enrollment has increased by more than 6,000 students. So we are educating more than 6,000 students today than we were 17 years ago, and yet the state is sending us $4 million less than they were on that same date. The impact is that per student funding at Missouri State is the lowest of any public university in our state, and it continues to decline as state funding shrinks and the number of students enrolling at our university increases. 98% of our operating budget comes from 2 sources: state appropriations, about 34% now, and tuition and fees, about 64%. When you add these 2 numbers together, Missouri State has the second lowest amount of revenue per student of all the public universities in Missouri. Only Missouri Southern is funded at a lower level. And so that $11,643 number that you see on this chart is more than $5,000 below the national average for public universities. What does that mean? It means at a university like Missouri State, when state appropriations continue to decrease, we have to evaluate increases to tuition and fees to avoid a dramatic impact on the quality of education we provide students. We have begun working through our budgeting process to determine what impact further decreases in state appropriations will have in fiscal year 2019. We will evaluate several strategies to balance the university's budget. They will include identifying administrative costs that can be reduced even further to allow reallocation of funds. We have been doing that for more than a decade, and I will tell you honestly, we are running out of options. We will also continue to work to increase revenue through enrollment growth, private giving, and grant funding. Unfortunately, administrative reductions and enrollment growth will not likely be sufficient to offset the reductions we expect to receive from the state. So we will also have to evaluate tuition and fee increases. We are confident that the affordability measures we announced today will soften the impact of any tuition and fee increases for all of our students, but particularly for those students struggling to pay for college now. Hence the restructuring of the need-based scholarship program. Strong universities that produce capable, well-educated graduates help the state grow and prosper. Missouri State will continue to work with our state leaders and our stakeholders to keep education affordable, increase the number of graduates coming from our university, expand critical academic programs, lead in the economic development of our state and region, and become ever more efficient. We will also continue to advocate for more equitable funding for this university and for higher education in general. I'm happy to take questions. So is Governor Turgeon. We have our student leadership here as well as substantive experts on all the things that we're talking about. So I'm happy to take questions from media, and I'm also, Carrie and I will be available for individual interviews thereafter if you would prefer to do that. Claudette?
Who will benefit the most from these changes, and is there a group of students that's left out?
So for about 3/4 of our program, 78%, I think, right, Frank? For 78% of our programs, you can graduate now with 120 hours. And so right there, that covers our existing students and all students coming in. Now, there are a handful of programs, 22%, I guess, that require more than 120 hours. Almost all the teacher ed programs, because of accreditation, require more than that. But that's the biggest piece, I think, of what we're doing. All of our freshmen who live on campus and purchase a meal plan, and anyone else purchasing a meal plan, will benefit from the new contract arrangement with Chartwells. Over time, most of our students will benefit from the textbook cost-saving mechanism. For example, Associate Provost Craig told me that Psychology 121 that almost everybody takes is one of those classes that's going to be a part of the Streamline Ed program. And so we think the bulk of our students will be covered by this. There may be a handful that are not if they're in a program that, because of accreditation, requires more hours to graduate. Yes, sir.
Thank you, President Smart. Thank you. Thank you, President Smart. Under your leadership, certainly our university has become a very great university. My question is this: all things considered, at the undergraduate level, would you say that our university is the flagship university?
No, I would not. The University of Missouri is the flagship university of the state.
I'm sorry to hear that, but
we want to be a great partner with the University of Missouri, and we believe that you can get as good or better education here as there in many undergraduate programs. They would likely say the same thing. And together, all 13 campuses of the public universities in Missouri are an important part of higher education and helping satisfy the ever-increasing demand for college graduates in this workforce.
Thank you, President Smart.
Any other questions for media before we wrap up? All right, again, thanks everyone for coming, and if anyone would like to interview Governor Turgeon or me, we'll be available down here. And we also have students available if you would like to visit with students about what these changes are likely to mean for them and other students.